Let me be honest with you for a second. Have you ever felt like your brain just works differently than everyone else's? You overthink. You feel everything too deeply. You doubt yourself constantly. And for years, you believed something was wrong with you. But what if I told you nothing was ever wrong with you? What if the exact things you've been ashamed of your whole life were actually signs of an extremely high IQ? Because today, we're going through 10 habits that neuroscience has directly connected to extraordinary intelligence. And I promise you this, by the time we reach the last one, you will never look at yourself the same way again. Stay till the end. Because the last habit, that's the one that connects every single brilliant mind in history. And you're probably doing it right now. Let's go. Number one, you talk to yourself. And that's one of the smartest things you do. Come on, admit it. You do it. Maybe while you're working through a problem, maybe while you're driving, maybe just processing something that happened during the day. And maybe for years you thought that was a little strange. It's not strange, it's brilliant. Psychologists call it self-directed speech. And what it actually does is force your brain to take scattered, half-formed thoughts and shape them into structured language. The moment you start talking yourself through something, your prefrontal cortex, the command center for logic, planning, and deep reasoning, gets a second pass at the information. You're not just thinking anymore. You're refining your thinking in real time. Research shows people who do this retain information longer, process it faster, and handle pressure better. Einstein did it. Some of the greatest thinkers in history did it constantly. So the next time you catch yourself talking to yourself, don't feel embarrassed. Feel proud. Your brain is doing something most people's brains simply don't do. Number two, you overthink. And your brain literally cannot accept a shallow answer. You replay conversations in your head. You revisit decisions you already made. You lie awake running through scenarios that haven't even happened yet. And for so long, the world told you this was a problem you needed to fix. But here's the truth, nobody told you. Neuroscience calls this metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. And it is one of the most advanced things a human brain can do. When you replay a situation, you're not spiraling. You're auditing yourself. You're looking for what you missed, refining what you believe, making sure your conclusions actually hold up. Most people accept the first explanation that feels comfortable and move on. You can't do that. Something in you refuses to settle. And that refusal, that inability to just let an incomplete thought go, that's not anxiety. That's your brain holding itself to a higher standard than most people ever will. Number three, you get bored easily. And there's a real neurological reason behind it. Repetitive routines drain you faster than they drain other people. You've probably been called impatient, hard to please, inconsistent. But nobody ever explained what's actually happening inside your brain. Highly intelligent people have a dopamine system that works at a higher threshold. Simple, predictable tasks produce less of a reward response in their brain compared to the average person. Their brain has essentially set a higher bar. It needs something real, something challenging, something worth engaging with. So when you find yourself completely mentally checked out from a routine that stopped growing with you months ago, your brain isn't being lazy, it's being honest. It knows what it's capable of, and it's waiting for something worthy of that. Don't suppress that restlessness. Listen to it. Number four, you doubt yourself. And this is actually the most powerful sign on this entire list. I need you to really hear this one. Self-doubt feels like the opposite of confidence, the opposite of intelligence, the opposite of everything we associate with being capable. But there is a well-documented psychological phenomenon that explains exactly why the most intelligent people are often the ones who feel the least sure of themselves. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And what it shows is that people with limited knowledge in a subject tend to feel extremely confident because they don't know enough to see how much they're missing. But as real understanding grows, something shifts. You start to see the complexity beneath the surface. You realize how many layers exist that you haven't fully explored yet. And that awareness makes you more careful, more thoughtful, more honest with yourself. To the outside world, this looks like insecurity. But it's actually one of the rarest forms of intelligence, knowing what you don't know. The people who are certain about everything usually understand the least. So if you're constantly questioning yourself, let me tell you something directly. That doubt isn't weakness. That's wisdom in disguise. Number five, you come alive at night, and science is completely on your side. Everyone else winds down. And you're just getting started. The ideas start coming. The thoughts start connecting. Problems that felt stuck all day suddenly start to open up. And you've probably spent years wondering if something is just off about your sleep schedule. Nothing is off. Research from the London School of Economics found a direct and measurable link between higher intelligence and preferring to stay up late. And it connects to something called cognitive flexibility, your brain's ability to move fluidly between different ways of thinking and seeing. At night, the noise of the world fades. the demands, the interruptions, the social pressure, it all drops away. And your brain, which has been running on high all day, finally gets the space and quiet it needs to make the connections it couldn't make with everything else pulling at it. That late night version of you that can't stop thinking, that's not a problem to fix. That's your mind finally free to do what it does best. Number 6, you notice sounds and distractions that nobody else even registers. The hum of the refrigerator, the ticking clock in the next room, someone's quiet breathing in an otherwise silent space. You notice all of it. And people have probably told you that you're too sensitive, too easily distracted, too difficult. But here's what's really going on. Your brain is collecting more information from your environment than the average person's brain does. More sound, more detail, more subtle shifts in atmosphere and tone. This heightened sensory processing is directly linked to stronger pattern recognition. You catch inconsistencies, changes, and details that other people walk right past. The trade-off is that your nervous system is working harder than most people's, which is why overstimulation hits you faster. That's not weakness. That's the price of having a brain that's always fully switched on. And honestly, that's a price worth paying. Number 7, you procrastinate, but what's actually happening is far more interesting than laziness. Before you beat yourself up about this one, let me give you something important. Psychologists have identified 2 completely different types of procrastination. There's passive procrastination, avoiding something out of fear or feeling overwhelmed. And then there's active procrastination, deliberately waiting because your brain is holding out for the right level of pressure, the right stakes, the right moment to go all in. Most highly intelligent people live in that second category. It's not that they can't start, it's that their brain won't fully commit until the problem feels genuinely worth its energy. And when that moment arrives, when the stakes are real and the engagement finally clicks, the work that comes out is often remarkable. So stop carrying the guilt of every last-minute comeback. Your brain wasn't procrastinating. It was waiting for something worth showing up for. Number 8, you remember the strangest details, but forget where you put your phone. You can recall the exact words someone used in a conversation from 3 years ago, a random fact from a documentary you barely paid attention to, the specific feeling of a moment that most people let go of completely. But your keys? Your phone? Where you put your charger 5 minutes ago? Gone. And this makes complete sense once you understand how your brain prioritizes memory. Highly intelligent minds tend to encode meaning, pattern, and emotional or intellectual significance, not routine or habit. Your brain holds on to the things that connected with something deeper. The mundane slips through because your brain simply didn't flag it as worth keeping. Your memory isn't scattered. It's selective, and it's selecting based on depth, not convenience. That's not a flaw in the system. That is the system. Number 9, you feel everything more deeply than you ever show. This one might be the one people misunderstand the most. For a long time, the world has treated intelligence and emotion like opposites, as if being deeply feeling makes you less rational, or being analytical makes you cold. But neuroscience tells a completely different story. Emotional depth, genuine empathy, the ability to understand what another person is carrying inside. These are sophisticated forms of neural processing. They require your brain to hold multiple emotional realities at once, to read what isn't being said, to respond with nuance when a simple reaction would be so much easier. That is not weakness. That is some of the most complex work a human brain can do. Smart people don't just think deeply, they feel deeply. And if you've spent your life being told you're too sensitive, too emotional, too affected by things, I want you to hear this clearly. What people were seeing was perception they didn't know how to handle. That depth is not something to tone down. It's something to be proud of. Number 10, you never stop learning, even when nobody is asking you to. And here it is, the one that shows up in nearly every remarkable mind across all of history. They never stopped being curious. Not because they had to, not to impress anyone, not for a grade or a certificate, but because something deep in their brain genuinely could not stop asking questions. They read things nobody assigned them. They sat with half-formed ideas until something clicked. They changed their minds when better evidence showed up, not with embarrassment, but with excitement. Because they understood that staying curious is the only way to keep growing. And here's what I really want you to take away from this. If you watch this far, if you saw yourself in any of these points, that is not a coincidence. Curiosity doesn't just show up in anyone. The fact that you're here, trying to understand how your own mind works, looking for something deeper than the surface, that already tells me something about you. That's not nothing. That's everything. So here's the real takeaway, and I mean this. Intelligence was never about how fast you could solve a problem or how confidently you walked into a room. It was always about depth, about the questions you keep coming back to, about the details you notice that everyone else walks past, about the way you feel the weight of things, ideas, emotions, moments that most people never slow down long enough to even touch. The things that made you feel different your whole life, the overthinking, the sensitivity, the restlessness, the doubt, those were never the problem. They were the proof. Your brain was never broken. It was never too much. It was never something that needed fixing. It was just waiting for you to finally understand it. And if this is the kind of content that makes you stop, think, and see yourself a little differently, then you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started, and the next video might be the one that changes how you see everything.